My name is Toni Hardin. I'm the KSB consultant serving the Kentucky Valley Educational Cooperative. Today I wanted to give you 13 things to know or random knowledge about a person with a visual impairment or blindness. The first piece of information is that a visual impairment does not equate with complete loss of vision. They may possess some form of light perception or if not their full sight. They may be able to see in blurs or varying degrees of distortion, with literal blind spots in some areas. According to the World Health Organization, 15.88% of people who are visually impaired face total darkness or blind. The remaining 84% have partial or residual vision, like color perception, light perception, movement, or even some form of perception. They are not ashamed of having a visual impairment. Many people who are blind or visually impaired report perceiving their visual impairment as a mere physical challenge. This group of people is as powerful, magnificent, and capable as anyone else. By no means do they see it as debilitating or the end of their joy, and they don't believe that being blind is their identity. They do not always need acute supervision. People who are blind visually impaired are far more aware of their environment and have more mastery than they are given credit for. They then need inputs just like anyone else to familiarize themselves in a new place or learn a new technology. But visually impaired people by no means are perpetually independent on others for their living. I would urge you to approach all visually impaired people with this in mind. If they need assistance, they will accept your offer. They also may sometimes feel insulted by the overcompensating kindness of others, as by judgment. Some visually impaired people I know often wish that everyone else would just treat them as people and not as people with a condition. Unsolicited and extra assistance is something that may make them feel small. For example, helping them cross the road and taking them to their destination when they only ask for directions, or buying groceries for them and counting money on their behalf. Even picking something up they dropped and taking over carrying their stuff are all considered as overcompensating kindness. Individuals who are blind or visually impaired are not supersensory and may not have heightened senses. Popular culture depicts that if one of the senses of a person stops working, the others become sharper. This is not necessarily true. Though blind people may rely more on their other senses and develop a strong memory, or are tuned in to auditory cues, they may not always have a sixth sense. People who are blind are often better at identifying aromas than their sighted peers. Studies have refuted the old age myth that blindness sharpens other senses, but researchers believe that people who are blind pay more attention to how an object smells and devote more cognitive energy towards cataloging that information. However, there is evidence that suggests blind people use a process called echolation, whereby sound waves are used to determine the location and size of objects within a particular area. Dr. Gavin Buckingham says they will either snap their fingers or click their tongue to bounce the sound waves off objects, a skill often associated with bats. They also enjoy being spoken to with normal language. You don't have to hold yourself back from using vision-oriented language with them, like look, see, watch, witness, or even viewpoint. They do not take offense at such words and might actually feel awkward if they sense you making conscious effort to avoid such terms. Instead, just let them be a part of your experience, as they make you a part of theirs. They are as responsive and engaging with their environment as any other human. People with blindness or visual impairment like exploring new places, go to the movies, music concerts, or even indulge in adventure sports like racing or skydiving. They are as excited or hindered by their surroundings as anyone else. This predisposition primarily depends on the personality types of individuals. Some are introverted and prefer their alone time or controlled environments, and others are extroverted and proactively seek varied experience. Individuals with a visual impairment are just as likely as anyone else to experience vivid dreams while sleeping. The difference is that their dreams are dominated by sounds, smells, and taste. Their dreams show up just the way they experience daily life, with a rich mix of sensory cues. In a Danish study completed in 2014 with 50 adults who were blind, 18% of the blind participants reported tasting in at least one dream, compared with 7% of sighted participants. Nearly 30% of the blind reported smelling in at least one dream. Almost 70% reported a touch sensation, and 86% hearing. However, the emotions and themes of their dreams are known to be similar to that of people with sight. Those who are blind or visually impaired understand colors in unique ways. Some individuals who develop blindness later in life relate to colors just like people with sight. For others who haven't experienced color as intricately, relate to it through association and building concepts like the fire is yellow or the sky is blue. They also associate it with energy forms like blue is cold and white is frozen. Sometimes they can only tell bright colors, or they might have a hard time telling blue from black or brown apart, or pink from white. Whatever is the case, colors have meaning for all people, and the blind understand the concept. It is reported that they have 4 times more nightmares than sighted people. This is a result of mental impressions or interpretations of distressing situations, because blind people generally report more anxiety in daily life than others. Dr. Meady, who has also studied this phenomenon closely, says such nightmares don't affect the quality of life of blind people, but are a true indicator of the experiences they have. The Journal of Sleep Medicine shows that an average of 25% of dreams experienced by people who are born blind are nightmares, while nightmares account for only 6% of the dreams of people whose sight is intact. It came as a surprise to most of the blind test subjects that they have more nightmares than people who can see. There are varying degrees of visual impairment and blindness. Some individuals seek assistance in the form of white canes or red-tip canes, which denote a degree of impairment. Many others prefer using guide dogs, who are trained to help them navigate through curbs, doors, or crosswalks. They keep an eye on their owner's right shoulder to protect against collisions. Guide dogs can't tell whether a traffic light is green or red, or if it changes color. A person who is blind or visually impaired uses audible cues like traffic noise to determine when they think it's safe to cross, and then signals their dog to move forward. If a car is coming, the dog will refuse to obey the command. They are open to curious inquiries about their situation. The key here is to be curious, have a willingness to learn, and appreciate the uniqueness that comes with being visually impaired. Many blind people don't see their situation as limiting and can offer great insights if you just ask. You may not know how to be with people who are blind, or may want to understand them better. It's perfectly fine for you to ask them about their lives and how their experiences are. Psychologists say that success in life, education, and jobs of visually impaired individuals are directly proportional to the expectations that people around them have and the degree of positive attitudes they encounter. Self-esteem, self-belief, and self-image are partially formed through social interactions, and it is important that people encounter empowering experience. Be that experience. The more capable and able you believe they are, the more they will shine. As you allow this understanding to settle, just remember that blindness is not a defect or a stigma. It is a characteristic, just as sight is, and Helen Keller's words capture this fact beautifully. I can see, and that is why I can be happy, in what you call the dark, but which to me is golden. I can see a God-made world, and not a man-made world. One of my past students, who continues to be one of my biggest inspirations, has said many times, I don't want to see on this earth. The first face I'll see is Jesus when I get to heaven. Miss Marlena Van Hoos.